Hello, you're listening to Questboard, a podcast where we make up random side quests. My name is Brandon.
And I'm Tiffany. And just so you know, we are not professional writers in any way, shape, or form. At least we don't claim to be. We just really like tabletop RPGs, and we do this for fun.
That's right. So, I'm sure a lot of our listeners know that we're nerdy.
What?
I know, right? And we're tabletop nerds.
That too. I mean, we make a podcast about tabletop games.
And so we've talked about board games and all that stuff. I'm pretty sure in the past, I can't remember when, I've talked about Canvas, which is a fun, artsy kind of board game that I bought that we both really like.
I absolutely love that game. It's beautiful.
And funny enough, you can the box is designed so you can hang it on the wall and all that stuff. And you notice the thing hanging on the wall.
When I walked into the studio today, I noticed that he had hung up the Canvas box art on the wall.
But I'm sure you notice that it's quite longer than the usual box.
Yeah, it's like 3 boxes put together.
Yes, because those 2 other boxes that sit side by side to make a complete long painting, those are the expansions.
You got the expansions?
If you look over there, do you see Canvas big box?
Nice.
I backed on Kickstarter a couple years ago, I think.
Yeah, if you look over there, for those of you listening to this podcast, which is a audio only thing, he pointed in the opposite direction of the boxes on the wall to a shelf with many board games on it.
Okay, yes. Anyways, so I ordered a big box where it's basically designed to contain all of the pieces in different sleeves and drawers and all that stuff, so it makes it more manageable.
Oh, organization.
And I ordered the 2 expansions alongside it.
Yeah.
And so I finally got it. I opened them all up and I put them all in there.
That's exciting.
And I don't know if we'll play today or we'll find a group of people because that's more fun with more people.
It is much more fun with more people.
The rules, the expansions, they have one rule set where if you purchase a card or addition to a painting, there's a flip side. And you can actually choose which side, and it changes the colors of whatever it is, or even the actual object. It's just the same silhouette.
Oh, that's amusing.
So you could choose either side to incorporate to your painting. They introduced your art styles, so everyone gets an art style.
Interesting.
That is a secret small agenda, where then it's hey, for every painting that incorporates this, a bird or an animal, you get additional points.
Oh, I like that.
And even lists all the cards that would be affecting that.
Nice.
And then there's also an artist card where it's famous artists or painters, and you get small special abilities involved with them.
Oh, fun.
And so I was oh, this looks a lot more complicated. Because then they started incorporating I don't know if you remember the rules. Remember how there's silver ribbons that's worth additional just 2 points or something?
Right.
Now there's gold. Now there's holographic shiny rainbow ribbons or something like that. And they're gold is worth 3. This shimmering kind of ribbon is worth 4. And it's just the newer cards gives those kind of cards. And so I'm oh, this is a lot more complicated.
I usually start losing focus when games get too complicated, but with the beautiful art on this one, I don't know.
But then I'm debating whether or not to. Right now, I have all the art editions.
Yeah.
They're all separated right now, and I don't know whether or not to shuffle them together or not. You know what I mean?
I have some games like that too, where they've given you extra editions, and you can shuffle them together, or you can play them separately.
No, this one they're oh, you need the base game.
Yeah. Okay. No, I've got some where you can just play with them separately, so I tend to keep them separate.
Yeah, so I was worried that if I incorporated something in the expansion into the base one, and then you get a portrait or something that requires something from the new one, but you're all just everything that's being drawn is from the base game, you kind of get screwed.
Yeah, but it does make it more difficult to actually get that. It's not just right there, you're going to get that.
That's the trade-off.
Yeah.
And it's hard. But yeah, I haven't fully decided anything like that, but that took me a while to put together and all that.
Fun. That's kind of with the Fatum cards that we have used in this podcast, actually. I got the like all included, like all the different expansions box for that, which folds out in a very elaborate way. But it includes every expansion and every card that all fit inside that one box, and I absolutely love it.
Yeah. So yeah, I had to tell you about that new addition to my board game set. Canvas is like one of my favorites, not the favorite.
Yeah.
Because it's sitting right next to my favorite one, which is Time Stories.
Gotcha.
I think I've told you plenty of times about that game.
Oh, yeah. I've heard about it.
You played the base one, remember?
Yes.
It was the Asylum one?
Yes, I do remember that now.
Yeah, I love that game.
It's pretty cool.
Great game.
It's a neat game.
That you can only play once. If you remember the puzzles.
See, here's the fun thing. I forget. So I can play
Do you remember the puzzles?
Nope.
It's been, what was it, a year or two?
It's been long enough.
You've completely forgot all the answers and all that stuff?
As far as I know. Who's to say if it doesn't like jog my memory if I were to play it again?
True enough.
Yeah.
Anyways, okay. Well, that was my banter that I brought.
Board games. Board games are fun.
I guess we'll move from board games to tabletop RPG games. And so we thought, okay, let's do a party starter because we feel like it. Because it's our podcast. We could do whatever we want.
I do what I want.
So, you got dice?
Oh, I got them. 20.
Wow. That's real low.
Yeah.
And it's not that long.
That's cool.
You're right next to a really long one. Thank God you missed that. Anyways, as a quick reminder, this is going to assume where we're making a quest where the party will be introduced to each other.
Yep.
Level 1.
Yep.
It's always going to be assumed that way.
Yeah.
If it requires us to introduce the party to like meeting for the first time, or we have to like address, they already know each other.
Right.
So we get to start your campaign.
Yay.
If you do this. And here's what's written. The party all arrive at the dungeon at the same time to answer the same advertisement asking for help retrieving an artifact. When they start to argue whether or not they should work together and split the reward, they get ambushed by a small group of goblins.
Interesting.
That is an interesting start.
So...
Well, we can't change the goblin part.
Nope. Essentially, like, what you've done here is, I would say, before the session, you give individually, each player, you give them this quest, essentially, and say, all right, you are answering this posting. You are going to go delve this dungeon, essentially. And then you start with, cool, all right, you've arrived at this dungeon. There's other people there already. And then you start describing the other people's characters, or ask them to describe their characters and say, all right, what do? You're all here to do the same thing.
You
Converse.
know, if you want to put more effort into it, DM, I thought, what'd be cool if like you have a small session 0 session with players individually.
Yeah.
And which then they roleplay getting the role, going out, like preparing what they need to in the town or city, and then going out. Yeah. And it's like, okay, that's where we'll start, and then do that individually. So that leads to the question, are we going to set it up where each person will be hired by a different person, or is it going to be where it's all the same people, like the same company that's hiring them, and they just took on the job separately?
It does say to answer the same advertisement.
I mean, you could...
But it doesn't necessarily have to be posted by the same person.
You can interpret the same advertisement, meaning it's for the same quest.
Right.
But it's made by different people wanting that artifact.
Yeah. So
you could argue
each person got hired by someone else to retrieve this artifact.
So then you could then argue, hey, if you let me do it to my benefactor, you could all just join in and we just split from my benefactor.
Yeah. But why would that person agree to getting less reward?
And that's the thing.
That's where the argument comes in. It does say when they start to argue about whether or not they should work together and split the reward, that's assuming that it's like one reward for...
Well, yeah, because it's one artifact. It could only go to one person to get the reward.
So they just pick whichever contract has the most and split that reward. Because the more people working on it, the higher chance it is to get it.
That's true. The thing is, though, what I don't like about this is it creates the possibility where the party will then refuse to work together.
It does.
And I never like to create that opportunity because some people, it depends on how much you trust your players or how well you guys know each other.
Yeah.
That would just create the chance of that, and then that just causes a rift.
Unless you create a dungeon that requires them to work together. So whatever their choice is, they have to work together to get this artifact. You can call, let's say you have 5 members in your party. It is called the Dungeon of 5. So there are 5 individual things that must be done at the same time in order to open the next door or something like that. Like, they have to work together. Not one person cannot do this by themselves.
If it was called a Dungeon of 5, or let's say standard party Dungeon of 4.
Yeah.
Why would they hire a single person for that single player to go to get the artifact from the Dungeon of 4?
It's not their job to figure that out. It's the player character's job to figure that out.
It just sounds kind of weird.
It doesn't have to be called the Dungeon of insert player amount here.
I don't know. I think this is going to have to rely on the fact that players, and we've said this plenty of times, players have the unwritten rule and understanding that you need to actually find a way to want to work with the other party.
Right.
Even though there's some clash, that's fine because, people clash all the time.
Right.
But you have to have an understanding that you have to twist your character in some way to be willing to work with the other people.
Yeah, don't be that person that makes a character that never wants to work with the other characters and that just ruins the entire cohesion of your party, the whole campaign.
Yeah, we go on the internet, so we hear those RPG horror stories.
Yeah, don't be the source of horror stories.
Yeah, so it's just like...
The whole point of playing these games is working with your party, working with the other players. So when you are given the chance like this to be like, I'm going to do it myself, don't.
Yeah, don't be a edgelord rogue.
Don't be the Leroy Jenkins.
No, that is fine, because that person could still be goofy or wants to work with the party. That's a goofy moment. I'm just getting bored. I'm just talking about the edgelord rogue that's I have to sit in the dark corner of the tavern.
Yeah. There's always one. And in fact, I've done that too. I realized pretty quick into the session, I made a character that never wants to work with anyone else. Let's start bringing her out of her shell and have her work with everyone else.
Yeah, at least you realized it.
Yeah, I brought that into play. I'm like, okay. I need to calm down on this. She doesn't hate everybody. She's just racist against elves.
Wow.
They killed her entire family.
Wow. Anyways, okay, so I think it's the same advertisement for the same dungeon, so we can't change anything about that.
Right.
It could be ambushed by a group of goblins. That's fine. There's nothing we could change about that, and it's perfect for level 1 anyways.
Right. Goblins are a great start.
I think the only thing we could add more to this is what is about this artifact, and possibly do ideas of how to make that a longer quest line or even the overarching story.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Right. Is it going to be some insane, amazing, actual D&D item that they could eventually use, or...
I think that is up to how we want to... It's our attempt to say, okay, it's going to be just a short quest thing just to introduce and get the party together.
Yeah.
Then we don't have to make it as extravagant. If it's going to be an entire thing for an entire campaign, then we make it more extravagant. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's kind of the tone of what you want, and we need to just pick a lane.
I don't want to write someone's entire storyline.
Well, it's inspiration.
I'm not really feeling it right now, but I feel like it would just be a great, one-off dungeon to get the party together, find the artifact, give it to whoever pays the most.
Well, then if it's just a one-off thing, then we don't really have anything create, and then they just sell it and then done. So we're done with the episode.
Wait, you made it sound like I had a choice. Now you want us to write an entire overarching storyline?
I'm talking about a quicker storyline,
okay.
Oh, this artifact. What happens if whoever they give the artifact to, that artifact doesn't matter who they choose.
Yeah.
Because you could say, oh, they're a part of some organization that's going to use this artifact that has this kind of power for bad things.
Okay.
And then that causes them to then deal with that, and then once they're done with that, that's the end of the arc. That's not the entire campaign, but something smaller like that. That's what I'm talking about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Side note, for a funnier approach, deck of many things. Anyways, back to real.
Gosh.
Sorry, I had that idea when we were first talked about the
if you give
artifact.
your party the deck of many things on the first dungeon,
I would totally do that.
You would.
Because it's funny.
It is funny. No, I hinted at giving the deck of many things once, but I didn't actually do it.
Yeah.
I was too afraid. I chickened out.
We already talked about that in
The
Lost Unicorn, that episode. And I guess it's still on my mind. That's why I brought. No, deck of many things is always funny to bring up.
You always want to bring in the deck of many things.
Because it's funny.
You know what else is usually funny to give someone? The alchemy jug. Because the amount of things that you can get out of that.
The amount of time that gets forgotten is so much.
Yes, but you can have a gallon of mayonnaise.
Yeah, I know.
Who needs a gallon of mayonnaise?
A lot of white people.
Oh, you're not wrong.
I know I'm not wrong. Anyways, so let's think of a unique, cool effect or ability this artifact does, and then we could then determine something that why it's needed, and then make a small you caused a problem because you're the good guys who provide the bad guys with their weapon kind of moment, you know?
What about something that controls the weather? Because there can be a lot of repercussions of controlling the weather.
Okay, hang on. Do you not remember, I believe it's called We Happy Maryville, our very first official party stars, because the one before that was Plain Sliders, where it was a drought that happened except for one town that was experiencing a festival, and we determined that it was a totem or an artifact that allowed absorbed moisture from the surrounding ones.
Well, I do now.
Well, okay, this screams that.
Okay, so not that.
I just oh my god, you basically said the plot of
I'm sorry, big artifact thing that can have bad repercussions. I think of weather control because that can have a lot of bad repercussions.
I mean, you could also think we could go to super generic and say, oh, this one helps enhance necromancy, and then the person who you give this to, they sell it to a necromancer, and now they have the ability to raise the entire crypts of the city.
Oh, you mean like in one of our other episodes, the silken bed to lie on? Remember
No, that one was about the Lamnia.
I know, but we mentioned beforehand that there was a necromancer that raised that entire city beforehand, and there was another episode that I'm now forgetting the name of.
It was the Of Metal Magic episode, Reduce, Reuse, Reanimate.
Yeah, that one.
But that one they never raised the dead or en masse. They got bodies from a 1920s Cult of Cthulhu universe through a portal.
They were technically raising those dead, so.
Yes, but they weren't doing it en masse.
Fair, they were just doing it onesie twosies at a time.
Is this episode just us talking about previous episodes?
Yes, because we can't come up with anything new and interesting.
Well, we're very constricted on this one. But
some cool artifact. How about something that shoots lasers? Just big laser thing, shoots laser. Just blah, there goes your enemies.
Why did I suddenly think about that one? I think it was the Dragon Talisman from Jackie Chan Adventures. That was the one where you hold it and then it shot a beam out.
I don't really remember that.
Or was that the Year of the Pig?
I don't remember what all the talismans do. There's a lot of them.
You know what I'm talking about.
There was one that what you're talking
there was one that I
feel like that's a dragon thing.
There was one that shot lasers. I remember the chicken was the floating levitating one.
You know, the pig might be lasers. Okay, I'm gonna Google what do the talismans do in Jackie Chan Adventures.
Comment down below if you watched Jackie Chan Adventures. If you didn't, watch it. At the end of every episode, they had Jackie Chan answer random, silly questions.
Yeah. There we go. Powers and abilities. Rooster, levitation, telekinesis. You were correct. Ox is super strength. Snake is invisibility. Rabbit's super speed. Sheep is astral projection. Dragon is combustion. So I think that's your laser.
What's that?
Rat was animation. Horse is healing. Monkey is animal shapeshifting. Dog is immortality or rejuvenation. Pig is thermal vision, so laser vision.
So yeah, it was the pig.
It was the pig.
Okay.
And tiger is spiritual balance.
I only remember that is because I think I remember this one scene back in a later season when all the talisman powers went to a random animal, and so they had to find the individual animals. I remember seeing a pig with lasers come out of his eyes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
I think I remember that scene.
Laser vision from a pig is just amusing.
And I remember there was the rooster on its back, and they were both levitating while he was shooting lasers out of his eyes.
Oh, I do remember that. Just flying around on a pig.
Yeah. And then I think this is a weird tangent. And then I think there was a season where then the powers switched to random animals, so they couldn't tell which ones had which abilities.
Oh no.
because they were really running out of ideas.
They did start running out of ideas. I mean, there was one point where they switched away from the talismans entirely and went to dragons or demons.
I remember there was that trickster monkey one
Hmm.
where it used to be a wooden doll until it switches places with someone, and it turned Jackie into a wooden doll.
Oh, I remember that.
And then they had to use the power of the rat just to animate it.
Yeah.
And so then they had to stop and get Jackie's body back.
No, I remember there was an entire season where they didn't even mention the talisman powers, where they were going after various demons and stuff.
I don't remember that.
There was like a demon box or something that got opened. It was like Pandora's box.
Yeah, they really ran out of ideas.
It's still good, though.
Anyways, I think we need to get back on track.
Oh, right. Fine. So, you want laser vision?
So it'd be like a tiki totem and just like shoots lasers out of its eyes?
Or is it going to be the pig talisman? And then that could start an entire campaign where they're trying to find all the talismans.
Okay, so are you saying you want a whole campaign? You didn't want to write an entire campaign.
I know, but that just happened. And
okay, so,
I mean, it doesn't have to be.
So we're going to make a
talismans.
spoof off of Jackie Chan Adventures and saying this is the first talisman or artifact of the 12 that represents different animals that has different abilities.
And it turns out the person that hired, at least the contract you end up choosing or something, the person that hired everyone is Uncle.
What was the shadow? No, hang on. It's gotta be the bad guys and then find out bad guys. And then bad guys will then let them know there's a total of 12 that they're fighting and then they have to stop them. What was the name of the organization in Jackie Chan Adventures?
Oh, I don't remember. I know Shendu is the dragon that had them all, or that wanted them all because he needed all the talismans to release him.
Is there a Jackie Chan Adventures wiki?
I'm kind of looking at it right now.
Wow. We went from trying to come up with something original to, oh, this is your entire campaign. It's just Jackie Chan Adventures.
Yeah.
But in D&D.
Oh no, Valmont was the guy helping Shendu. Let's see. The Dark Hand is what they were called.
Okay, so we have to do a spoof off of that name.
The Ebony Claw?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay.
It's actually a organization of chromatic dragonborn who believe that these powers originated from their ancient dragon ancestors.
There we go.
In which then they need these talismans. Okay. Okay, we can't make them rings because then it'll be like, oh, you're Thanos, but 12 rings.
Right.
I don't want that.
They could be medallions. Or they could each be a different piece of equipment.
I kind of want just like something big enough that you could only use one at a time because I'm afraid the player is taking advantage of this. You know what I mean?
Gotcha. So, okay, they, like I said originally, then they could all be medallions because you're only allowed to wear one at a time.
Not exactly.
To my understanding, I thought so.
Well, there's so much yes and of like, hey, I could wear multiple medallions.
That's fair, yeah.
And then they could argue, then that means that all of them could take effect.
Maybe each one comes with a contingency that it does not work if you are wearing another one. They only function if you only have one.
I would love, normally I like to set a rule that like makes enough sense so that players can't argue against it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If it's like, oh, it's a big thing and it acts as a one-handed weapon without the, you can even say with the light property, so you can have something in your offhand.
Mm-hmm.
And so then they're like, okay, it's just like a weapon slot. And so it has to be this. So then they don't argue about, oh, I want to use both of these or something like. Actually, then they can argue that they have one in each hand.
Especially if it has the light property and they have dual wielding.
Yeah.
Boots.
Okay, so that
doesn't have to be boots.
That is up for the DM.
Yeah. Basically,
we're coming up with the plot.
They can only use one at a time.
Yeah. If you could find a way to justify it.
Well, here's the thing. If a character or player tries to use more than one at a time, the energies clash within them and they take a permanent hit to their stats. That'll stop them from using more than one at a time. Only one person has to do that before the others are like,
so
okay, don't do this.
Are you saying you're doing the shock collar approach?
Yes.
Okay. Interesting.
Hey, if you tell them initially only one can be used at a time and they try to go around that, they're getting shocked.
I could picture your husband doing that.
And I'd shock him.
No, you probably hold back.
Only a little.
Only a little. Okay, so we have made a initial quest that's going to lead into a spoof of Jackie Chan Adventures.
Only slightly, though. If you really don't want to hint at it, you can change the name of the evil organization and the powers of what each of the items do. But this being the first of a long line of items to collect can still lead to a really epic party by the end of the campaign.
True. Actually, do you want to say, determine real quick, is there going to be an ultimate goal of like destroying them, sealing them away? What is the ultimate goal with these 12 talismans or artifacts? Well, I'll stop saying talismans.
Yeah.
Artifacts. What is the ultimate goal? You know what I mean?
Saving the world?
Yes, but like by what? Having them on them, in which then they're always being hunted, or they could use quote unquote or quote unquote abuse the power themselves?
Maybe. Okay. There is an ancient evil that is slowly awakening, and it was the artifacts originally that sealed it away, but that seal is weakening, so they need to use the 12 artifacts to reseal the ancient evil before it is free.
I had the sun thought of, if we want to do like on the long side as dragons and all that stuff, you know how chromatic dragons are evil and tend to be against humanity and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Let's say those are chromatic dragons.
Mm-hmm.
And let's say that there is an ancient metallic dragon, any you choose, that would safeguard them if brought to them.
Okay.
You know, it kind of reminds me of I had this on inspiration from the secret level episode about Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh yeah.
Where that golden dragon and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, oh, what happens if like these talismans, they just find out that the ancient metallic dragons know about this power because they're ancient and wise, and they would safeguard it because they know how powerful these things are and all that stuff.
Okay.
And so it could keep along the same dragon theme.
Right. I like that. So you're trying to take the artifacts to an ancient metallic dragon, and all the while keeping them away from the chromatic dragons.
Yes, and we could even say like make this a whole underground or in Shadow War between metallic dragonborns and chromatic dragonborns that are part of those different organizations.
Okay.
And trying to fight for the said artifacts.
What if one of your players decides to play as a chromatic dragonborn?
Well, they're not a part of the organization.
Okay.
It's like very
it's
much
just going to make things difficult interacting with the metallic organization.
But you could always do like, clearly they're not part of it. They weren't raised or quote unquote brainwashed.
Right.
But it will make infiltrating a lot easier.
Actually, it would, yeah. That would make very interesting storyline stuff.
You could have them NPC metallic dragons wary of the player character.
Just be like looking at them with squinty eyes, be like, who are you?
Yeah, the whole
exactly
side eye
again?
thing.
Yeah. Bombastic side eye.
But okay, we made an interesting whole campaign.
Yeah.
And
even
so
though I didn't want to.
well,
it happened.
We do this all the time. We're like, I don't want to do this, and then it ends up happening.
But then the ideas start flowing, and our 90s kids things come into play, and
I'm the one who called for the reference.
Hey, didn't we make like an entire Jackie Chan? Not Jackie Chan. Jackie Chan's what we did this time. Samurai Jack. There's Jack in it.
No, we talked about it.
Oh, okay.
We did a character jam based on all of Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Yeah.
Which that's not a 90s kids.
No, but it's really good.
It is. Anyways, so if you start your campaign, and if you actually make your campaign based off of this, please let us know if you had a chromatic dragonborn in your party or something interesting that happened. I don't know.
Let us know about all of those shenanigans too.
Just give like weekly updates
we
as sessions progress and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We would love to hear about it. You could do that down in the comments of this YouTube video, or on X at QuestBoardPod, or on Blue Sky at QuestBoard. If you have a posting of your own for our regular stuff, or maybe like an interesting scenario for a party starter, sure, we'll take that. Let us know on any of those sites. I think with that, I wish you all a good night.
And happy questing.